Welcome to the Elaborate Topics podcast, where we focus on lab-specific strategies for medical laboratory professionals. We're proud to be the healthcare detectives that work behind the scenes to get the results needed to influence medical decisions. Let's grow together and jump right into the lab.
Welcome to another episode of Elaborate Topics. I am your co-host and leadership mentor for this episode, Tywauna Wilson. If this is your first time tuning in to Elaborate Topics, welcome. I'm happy you landed on this podcast. Myself, along with my co-hosts, Lona Small and Stephanie Whitehead, bring you practical tips that you can use inside and outside of the laboratory. We also bring you many amazing guests that share their stories of navigating inside the laboratory or being friends of the laboratory and sharing success tips that has helped them navigate their journeys. Today is no different. I have another amazing guest who will share with us her journey in the laboratory and how she has used it and is using it to help other medical laboratory professionals such as yourself navigate your careers and give you those critical and crucial steps that you need to be successful. So before we jump into it and I bring on our special guest, do me a favor, like and subscribe to this podcast and share it out with your network. Sharing is caring. So we need you to share it out so that other people who might be struggling in the laboratory can pick up on our over 100 episodes and get some tips that they need to be successful. So my guest today, which I am super excited about, is Trishana Osbourne. Trishana, how are you?
I am great. Thank you for having me today.
Awesome. Well, let's get into it. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about your laboratory journey and where you are at today, making an impact with people of the laboratory?
Yeah, thank you. So in high school, I'd always had an interest in the sciences. I didn't necessarily want to work directly with the patient, but I knew that I wanted a career where I could still make an impact in healthcare. I've considered medicine, but it wasn't the right fit for me. And so when I went to college, I've considered a several sciences major, and I looked at laboratory science. It fit perfectly for me with my reserved personality, and I could still actively engage in patient-centered care. I also a hands-on person. I love to learn while doing, and I believe in the laboratory, it was a lot of activities with your hands. I'm not so much about just learning theories and ideas and philosophies. And so I also enjoyed the alone time working by myself and still contribute to a team as a whole. So I knew that I found the right career, the perfect fit that was for me. I could work at my own pace and discover several things while in the laboratory. So though I had the technical skills in the laboratory, I lacked the confidence to advocate for more pay and to communicate the value that I had. And so I had limited exposure to value proposition and negotiation. And so in the beginning of my career, I really struggled to get a fair pay that was to the market value. And I didn't know how to ask for more money without feeling sleazy. I tend to put my head down and hope that my hard work would have given me the recognition. But oh no, I found myself being burnt out and overworked. And I knew that trying to wing it on my own wasn't helping me. And so, funny enough, my first employer gave me a career coaching book, but I didn't take any much thought into this book. And so 6 years later, I decided to look more into it. And so I discovered that I needed to share the resources and tools that I found along the way to help me to make a significant increase in my salary and a role that was more specifically aligned to my skill set. I knew other persons who were in similar situation like myself, and I knew that there is a need for mentors, especially being an international person living in the Caribbean, and that there was a need for community. And so curating a support and a safe community for other laboratory professionals to connect and advocate and know more about how they can make an impact in their career.
Wow, that's awesome. And you mentioned so many things that we'll touch on. You mentioned being burnt out. You mentioned that visibility, and you also mentioned about, negotiating your salary and not feeling sleazy behind it. And that whole thought of, if I do a good job, I'll be recognized for my efforts and my talents. And as we know, that is not always true. So you did talk about being, living in the Caribbean. So talk a little bit about, so where are you currently located so that people know, and then where did you get your training or do your training, and what kind of hospital or laboratory were you in?
So I was born in Jamaica and migrated to the Cayman Islands at the age of 13. I knew that living on a small island is so much limited on what you could do. And I was deeply interested in medical laboratory science. So I knew that I needed to venture into a different country where I had the opportunity to pursue the 4 years of study. And so I went back to my home country, Jamaica, where it was close to the Cayman Islands and it's shared common values and culture and everything. And so that's where I pursued my undergraduate degree, Bachelor's of Science in Medical Laboratory Science. And then I spent my internship at the National Public Health in the Kingston of Jamaica, which is one of the major blood bank company in Jamaica. And I later returned home to the Cayman Islands, where I work at a major hospital here as well.
Wow, that's awesome. So many of you know, if you've heard Lona speak, she is originally from Jamaica as well. And I can remember her talking about her family. The big thing was to go to medical school. And so at first she didn't know anything about the laboratory because the push was go to medical school. And so she said she tried that route, and unfortunately it didn't work out for her, but she found medical laboratory science and she absolutely fell in love with it. And so was that a push from your family as well to go the medical school route, or it was really just a science or nursing or some other route?
It definitely was a push. My raising in a single parent household, my mom put a lot of emphasis on education. And so I assumed that pursuing a medical career would have given me the accolades and freedom from my poverty-stricken childhood. But I then later realized it wasn't for me, and I needed to find something that I do enjoy. And it was more than just the salary. It was something that I felt would give me satisfaction and fulfillment in the end.
Awesome. Yeah, and our kids go through that so much. Parents push their kids into a certain career profession due to, the perceived that you can make more money, not really factoring in that it could be more stressful. It just has that perceived prestige with certain professions. So I think it's always good to you as the student or the child be able to find your way in which you can utilize your skills. Now, did you go on and achieve some sort of certification? And if you did, do you feel like that was important working in the Caribbean or Jamaica?
Yeah, so I believe that certification would have been very important. So here, we don't really require ASCP, but some form of local certification where you're approved by a national council of the health organization here in the Cayman Islands, and that would be suffice to validate your experiences to work in the laboratory.
Got it. Okay. And so thinking about, your time in the lab before you really got into the whole advocacy and really helping the professionals figure out their route in their career, did you have a favorite area in the lab? And if you did, what was it? And what skills, I would say, do you feel were needed to be successful in that particular area of the lab or discipline of the lab?
So I really do enjoy pretty much all areas, but one of the areas that really stood out to me was microbiology. And I love, learning about bacteria, biology, and, creating an environment to understand the etiology or the origin of the disease and how it can impact the body, and to further understand what were the prescriptions and so forth that I could use to treat certain diseases. I also enjoy phlebotomy because I am also, even though I am a reserved personality, I love people and I love the interaction of different people on a daily basis. And no day is the same when you do phlebotomy. You always meet a different person from the other day. And so it's like, it keeps it very interesting and learning more about persons and their personality and their response to us as medical laboratory scientists. And unfortunately, what I've noticed that many people don't really familiar about medical laboratory scientists. And so it was an opportunity for me to show more about my work. Persons usually assume me to be a nurse, because it's always saying that nurses draw blood, but it's just to give them an idea of what happens, that we do more than draw blood and that we play a very vital role in helping with the diagnosis, because doctor can really properly treat without they actually have a confirmation of those blood tests and other body fluids without us. And so it's also bring awareness more about our work and for persons who consider an interest in developing a career in laboratory science.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I think it's important for exposure at every level. So whether it's the phlebotomist, whether it's the medical laboratory technicians or scientists, whether it's our pathologists, whether it's, any other area in the laboratory, I think it's important to bring that focus and that awareness. So I think that's awesome that you were an advocate for the phlebotomy team, because as we know, they are the gatekeepers, especially if you're in a facility in which your phlebotomists are actually the ones collecting. So I've worked at facilities where we were majority in lab phlebotomist collection. I've worked in facilities where it was majority nurse collections as well. And you can tell a difference and the specimens that you get dependent on if it's phlebotomy collect or nurse collect. So I think it's important to have that awareness. So thinking about that of being in, microbiology and working very closely with our phlebotomists, I'm sure, it came to where it's like, man, I'm hearing a lot of stories or working with a lot of people, and this whole being able to navigate their career, or whether it's navigating from phlebotomist to tech, or tech to an administrative role, or something else. So what made you really get into this career coaching space with medical laboratory professionals, and why did you feel like that was important or even necessary?
So being a first member in my family to go to college and able to obtain a degree, it was challenging to navigate new spaces and speaking up about myself, advocating for my needs and expectation in the workplace. There was no blueprint or guidelines or a step-by-step process to ensure that I take the right step in ensuring that I got the right pay and I was happy. And so I see that there was a need for mentors, especially in the Caribbean. We are small in numbers, and I believe that there were limited associations. And though we had associations, there was still a gap in pursuits, bringing more awareness around pay and the different areas or actual career in laboratory science. I felt that so many persons consider or might even compelled to leave because they are unaware of the career paths that are available in laboratory science. And so it's more than just doing bench work and management. There are actually unique areas that you can specialize in and be impactful and also make a lot of money. And so that's why I felt the need to advocate and even create that community here, especially in the Caribbean, for professionals who are looking for a place to raise their concerns and even find resources that will help them to communicate their needs in the laboratory and how to properly convey and ask for more money.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that that you mentioned, and I think that most people, or some people, they let their careers just happen, right? There's really no strategy behind it. And it might be, I get into the lab and, I'll work in a hospital, I'll work on the bench, and maybe I move up to lead tech and maybe supervisor and manager, or whatever the case may be. And it doesn't have to be that route. I know for me, luckily, I learned very early on. I had a mentor who was in the laboratory, and I was still a student doing my clinicals. And one of the things that she said to me, her name is Ann, and I'll never forget her. So Ann, if you're listening to this, thank you so much for your words, because it really changed how I thought about my career. But what she said is, with a degree in medical laboratory science, you can do anything. She said, you are not limited to working in a hospital lab, working on the bench, working, as a generalist, and then moving up. She said, you can work for the government, you can work in academia. She says you can work in industry. So if you like working on these instruments, you can go and work for the instrument vendor. You can do validations and installs. You can do training. And so she allowed me to have that thought in my mind, even before I got my first job, that this first job doesn't have to be it. I can do many things. And so I think, as you're talking about career coaching, I think that's very important, because some people, maybe they didn't have an and maybe they don't know. So I do also know that sometimes medical lab professionals, when they hear the word coach, they may not think of it in a positive way. They could think of it as, I'm getting coached for performance because I'm not doing a good job, versus I'm getting coached for development. And those of you that are listening to this show, we did an episode that talked about mentoring and coaching And sometimes they can look similar, but they are two different things, as mentoring and coaching, and really you need both. But when should somebody think about this career coaching in their career? After they got into it? Should they think about it while they're in school? Like, at what point should they think about career coaching, and what does that even look like?
Yeah, so we as human, I believe we pride ourselves on do it yourself. And, especially if you are the one who um, went to college, got the degree, you did all those things on your own. And that is great. I believe that's an excellent and adaptable skill to have. And that's what it's really taught us in the laboratory, how to be very independent, but also a team player as well. I think it can also be to our detriment if you are keep doing the same thing over and over and not seeing the results. And so, as you say again, if you don't have a strategy, then you can actually have a career disaster, because you'll be just winging it based on uncertainties and not much information or thoughts about what you're doing. And I tell people all the time, it's more than just having a degree, it's having the right strategy to help you position yourself. And so when you realize that if you are trying to use the same logic to advocate for more pay, and it's been years and your pay is still the same, it's not saying something is wrong with your expertise. It might need that you need to learn from an expert to teach you what is it that you need to do in order to get more pay. And so it's when you realize that do it yourself is limiting you, and it is causing you frustration and unnecessary stress. So I always tell persons, it's so much easier for you to recognize that time is precious, and you're learning from someone who already have done it before you. So they're giving you literally a shortcut, which make it so much easier for you. So you don't need to wait a certain number of years to achieve a certain type of income or to move in a certain type of area in the laboratory. If you have the right tools and the resources, you can literally leverage any opportunities and make a significant income without leaving the laboratory.
Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, you can have those skills, but if you don't know how to leverage them for your advantage, then it could, make it difficult. And so when you think about, crucial factors or steps in somebody successfully navigating or transitioning in their career, what do you think about, or what comes to mind as kind of some of those critical or crucial steps?
Now, personally for me, I've discovered 3 pillars that have been successful in helping me to have a successful career. And one of those pillars are like self-care. It's so much important to prioritize your career needs. Now, I know when I talk about self-care, persons think about, oh, is it about makeup, spa day, and nails? But it's also important for you to know about your career needs, because so much time growing up, we are learned to put other needs ahead of us. And so it's more about what does your parents want you to do? And it end up you choosing a career based on your parents' preference or their expectations of you. So you are always learning to appease others. And in doing so, you compromise your own values and needs in the process. So what happens is once you recognize your needs, it's so much important that you are better able to communicate those needs and expectations. So you are doing activities in the lab that give you more joy. It is pointless if you are doing activities that you don't enjoy and it's keeping you occupied And what happens is that's where you become frustrated and stressed out because you believe that you could be utilizing your skill set elsewhere, but you're doing things to just being occupied in the moment, and it will cause more frustration and resentment where you have all these other skill sets and you're like, they're not utilizing in the right capacity as you'd like to. Another key step is self-trust. Trusting yourself is so key. Like, trust the decision that you made about your career major. I think so many times people get defeated about choosing the wrong career. I don't believe in a career failure or choosing the wrong career. It's like, affirm the decision that you have made and to know that whatever decision you make in your career, it comes with implications. And so once you understand that there is a power in your decision, and once you have that awareness about your needs, it gives you that authority and that conviction in making decisions or even applying to roles that you know will be rewarding. It will save you time and needless frustration of applying to a job that you know for one wasn't paying well. So you recognize that it's not aligning with your values and personal needs. So you wouldn't put your application or venture into that particular company. You know, you more likely will choose companies, and that's where the other pillar comes in, space. Space is so important because it becomes more than you. You fit into a bigger whole. And once you realize how important you are as a whole and how you can contribute to an entire space. And that's why being in the right space is important, because it will help you to empower you and help you to hone in on your expertise. You know, someone that who loves diamond will value it. Someone who doesn't know the value of a diamond will not know what to do with it and probably will sell it for less. And so you will need to know that you are connecting with the right people that will also know and see you for your expertise, because you already have the expertise, and it's time that you have the confidence to trust yourself, to claim that you're an expert, and be confident to know that you can add value and you deserve to be paid. If you don't have that confidence in yourself and your skill set, then you're more likely to compromise. And yeah.
Yeah, that was good. So I really, really like that. I actually liked all of them. But self-trust, because that is huge. Sometimes we think we don't really trust in our abilities, and therefore our confidence is not as high as we need to be. And then it's hard to communicate the value. You got to have that self-care. That is crucial, because we're seeing it now more than ever, where people are burnt out, people are stressed out, people are overwhelmed. And so we're seeing it now in the medical laboratory industry more than anything, and being in that right space. And so I think that is very important as well. So those three are critical, having that space. And earlier you talked about community. And how important is that? Because sometimes as scientists, we tend to be introverts, doing our own thing, working in our own space. And so how important is it to have that community of people that you can bounce ideas and, you know, understand that there's more than one way to do things, and really gaining that confidence and understanding and education and getting that coaching and mentoring. So how important is that whole idea of community?
Community is so important because, as the saying goes, no man is an island. So it gives you, as you said, a way of collaboration. So you're able to network with other persons, work on different projects. It gives you an opportunity to brag about your accomplishments and to see how other persons can support you. I also believe it gives you accountability, because sometimes doing it alone, you tend to procrastinate and don't have the motivation to truly pursue your career goals. And so you have someone who will keep you on track and motivate you along the way. So it's give you that reason to show up and to stay committed to your goals, even during the low points of your life and so forth.
Yeah, I think that makes total sense. Other people, it's funny, it's easier to stay accountable to somebody else than it is to yourself sometimes. So yeah, that sense of community and belonging and all of that comes with community. Do you think there are benefits of having a career coach in the medical laboratory?
Yes, there's so much benefit. One, you get an expert, someone who has done it before. So it giving you pointers, a proven process that is tried and true. And so you know that that is guaranteed to give you results. Then you are who's trying to do something on your own and you don't have any sense of direction. So it more likely is like throwing a spaghetti on the wall and hoping for it to stick. And you can't do that with your career. One, your time is precious and you're leaving money on the table. And so it's other persons are also depending on you, and you could also be that example for your family. And as someone who is a first gen, I am an example in this career. And so being not only a woman, but a Black woman, advocating for more pay, and for more presence and visibility in laboratory science. And so it's good to have representation of more women on all ethnicities from different backgrounds in the laboratory, and to make sure that they are actually represented, and to know that there is a space for you as well.
Awesome. I think that is very important. And so, what if somebody's listening to this podcast and they are like, well, where would I even find a career coach? Where would I find a career coach? And then, thinking about that sense of community, where would I even find community?
That's a great question. I would say start online. Like LinkedIn is an amazing platform, and you get an opportunity for search for persons in specific industries or fields. I really see sometimes there isn't an association even at your workplace, and so sometimes you don't even have that support. And so it's important to go online, venture outside of your own country or area of hometown to look elsewhere, because staying restricted to what you know or to the people in your circle, it might cause you to miss out on so much opportunities. And so people need to know more about your work, and you are deserving to share that with other persons. So see it as an opportunity of sharing your expertise with the world. And one way of doing that is connecting, finding community through career coaching.
I agree. Being online, and especially LinkedIn, that is my platform of choice where professionals hang out. Being able to see other people doing things now more than ever, there's access to people all around the globe. So get connected with people that you find that is, inspiring, or sharing messages that relates to you and with you. Get connected with them and get in their community. And don't just get connected, get inside of their community, but making sure that you are getting involved so that they can understand who you are and what you offer. So that way, if opportunities come their way, then they will think of you and they will be able to, help you move to that next level. So get involved and don't just be a spectator, because if you're a spectator, then people are not able to form community with you. So Trishana, do you think there are skills and strengths that are necessary for today's medical laboratory professionals that will push them to the next level? And if so, what do you think would be some of the top skills or strengths that they need to be able to really navigate their career?
Yes. Outside of your technical skills, I know persons talk much more about that, about their hands-on being practical in the lab, but communication is key. It's more than communicating with your coworkers and patients about lab work. It's about how you communicate your skill set and your expertise with key players and stakeholders of the company. And also, otherwise than communication, is also having leadership qualities. I think persons think that leadership is necessarily those that are attached with a certain title, position, or salary. But knowing that you are also a leader, you're doing something, you're making valuable contributions to where you are. And if you're recognized that you are unique in your area of expertise, you're more likely to want to share that, because a leader knows that they're there to make a difference, and make an impact to other persons. So they are willing to want to collaborate and share ideas of other persons. They understand the importance of building the right connections, because they know that the work, they cannot do it alone. And so I believe those are very key skills to have if you're looking to have a successful career in laboratory science.
Yeah, those are awesome. And we had a guest on not too long ago, one of my mentors, Cedric LaFleur. If you listen to the 100th episode, I talked about Cedric's episode that he did. And he said, you have the technical skills. So, yes, you need your technical skills, but don't solely focus on that. Don't forget about, the other skills that you need, just as you were talking about, those leadership skills, those communication skills and qualities. So make sure that you focus on those just as much, because it's going to be important in your problem solving, in your building community, in your being a collaborator with different areas of your hospital or laboratory. So yes, you need your technical expertise, but you also need to build your soft skills, as they say, or your leadership skills or communication skills at the same token. Trishana, what leadership tidbits would you leave the medical laboratory professionals with for navigating their career or investing in career coaching? What would be your tips for being able to do that?
Claim your expertise. If you're willing to claim what you know, then you see the value of it. If once you see the value, then someone else will. I think so many times persons are expecting others to see the value when you don't even have the confidence in yourself to accomplish it. So if you're looking to position yourself for a higher pay, then you have to believe in yourself that you have the skill set and you can deliver at that level of sophistication. Especially now when the market is so competitive, you will need to come at a different level of sophistication to stand out. And one way of doing that is having high expert career coaching.
Awesome. So how can the listeners get and stay connected with you? Because I know you do a lot of trainings online, and maybe somebody that listens to this message or listen to this podcast, your message and your level of authority resonated with them. And they're like, wow, maybe I need to get into her community and understand more from her and learn more from her. So how can people get and stay connected with you?
So you can come and reach out to me, Trishana Osbourne, on LinkedIn. And yeah, we can connect. Shoot me a message. Look forward to connect.
Okay, so make sure you reach out to her on LinkedIn, Trishana Osbourne. And are you on YouTube too? You have a
Not
YouTube
yet.
channel? Okay.
No.
I know you're on Facebook. What's your Facebook link?
So my Facebook is also Trishana Osbourne, and you can also check out my Instagram as well. I talk more about my Caribbean life and laboratory medicine. So yeah.
So go over, she's on LinkedIn, she's on Facebook as well as Instagram. She posts videos and helpful tips for you. So being able to navigate your career and being able to really own your expertise and asking those right questions. So make sure you check her out and get connected with her and consume her resources that she has out there. Trishana, this has been awesome. It's been a pleasure being able to meet you and be able to interview you and share your practical tips with our audience. So I definitely appreciate you being here today.
Yeah, thanks again for having me.
Well, thank you. It has been awesome. And I look forward to collaborating with you in the future and really hearing more about how you have navigated being an international scientist, as well as maintaining your self-care and helping professionals navigate their career. So thank you, listening audience, for tuning in to this episode of Elaborate Topics, where my special guest, Trishana Osbourne, talked to us about the need for career coaching, having that sense of community, being able to navigate your career and advocate for yourself so that you can get either higher salary or the job or career that you really desire. So being in that right space, having that self-confidence, being able to have that self-trust. So all of those tidbits were practical tips that she shared in this episode. So make sure that you go back and you replay it because she gave some great information that you can use. So thank you for tuning in. Please make sure you go out and share this podcast out. People can find it on directimpactbroadcasting.com or your favorite podcast platform. And until next time, my friends, I hope you have an amazing week.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Elaborate Topics, where your hosts discussed relevant strategies for laboratory professionals. Please subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and listen to us on directimpactbroadcasting.com. Stay tuned for another episode with information you can use to excel in your laboratory career.